That's good.
Okay, engineers report. Up first, TJ.
Any announcements?
Yeah, that's right. He's got announcements.
I'm a rule follower.
You just like a long meeting.
I'll jump into the engineer's report. I have a number of items, so I'll go through them as quickly as possible here. We submitted our report on Friday of last week, and the first item I'd like to talk about is Veterans Park. Chuck and I met with Mr. Timothy Schaff. He's the adjoining property owner at Veterans Park, where, as you know, we have that encroachment issue ongoing. We met with him on the 12th. I thought Mr. Schaff was pretty receptive. He seemed willing to work with the township to resolve the issue, which was a positive thing. His main concerns are related to people accessing his property and his potential liability from having people on his ground. So we talked about a couple different options out there, and the one that we settled on as being most desirable was installing some additional chain link fencing in that area to prevent people from accessing his property. So we staked it out with some ribbon while we were out there. We were looking at extending a 6-foot chain link fence from the left center field area, going out to the tree row, and installing a second chain link fence in the vicinity of the left field line going towards the other tree row on Brownsville Road. So essentially, it would be approximately 200 feet of chain link fence, and what we would effectively do is isolate his property and not allow anybody onto his property to climb up that hill and watch baseball games from left field, basically. So Mr. Schaff seemed pretty receptive to that idea. In conversations with him, I think, you know, if the township were to proceed with some type of action to, you know, appease his privacy concerns and his liability concerns, I think, you know, we can come to a solution there to permanently resolve the encroachment issue. I think ultimately the township should draw up permanent easement paperwork that we could then approach Mr. Schaff with that paperwork and request that he sign it so that we can get a permanent easement recorded to eliminate all future concerns.
Would we have, for the purpose of the easement, we would have to have some type of survey or some type of plot
Yeah,
showing meets and bounds and all that.
Right, so we put a letter together on May 19th, kind of a briefing report of the summary of the meeting with our recommendation there at the bottom. So you're right, Dennis. I don't personally feel comfortable drawing up easement paperwork based on a different engineer's drawings. I would want Banks and Engineers to do a field survey to locate some property corners and draw up those easement drawings accordingly. That's an assumption I'm uncomfortable with, using somebody else's work. So,
Based on what I've seen in the work from previous situation, I would recommend to the board that they utilize your Banks and Engineers to do a new survey, because I've seen some situations where there's been issues with the work.
And there's already a park on the guy's property.
Well, I think, but I think that
that's
would.
right. You got to park on somebody
If it
else's
was
property.
perfect
It's a
already,
problem.
it wouldn't be there.
But I would recommend that Banks should do a survey.
Just echoing what TJ was saying, he was very receptive. All he wants is to make sure that he has the privacy that he had before, and that we are not going to allow people to access his property
For liability.
while using the township's park.
There's no liability, no.
I thought it was quite reasonable and not overly expensive.
Yeah, so we staked it out. We can put fencing up totally on our property, which will totally isolate his property, which I think is a good solution for everybody. I think we should absolutely follow through with a permanent easement so that we eliminate all future township liability down the road. I think that needs to be executed and recorded with the county. So that's all I have regarding Veterans Park at this point.
Does the, rather, I mean, we have to, we can make a motion to authorize you to do that right now, or we can just, it's up to the board, or you can just, does anyone have any objection to Banks and Engineers doing the work and just submitting an invoice for the next meeting? What do you think the cost would be to do the survey?
No, I mean, we'd be finding property corners, it wouldn't be very, it wouldn't be.
Less than 1,000, less than 5,000?
Yeah, in the neighborhood of 1,000 probably, yeah. To have a 2-man survey crew out here for half a day or a day or whatever it takes to do the work, yeah.
I bet you do survey for my property. Does anyone have an objection to Banks Engineers doing the work, do the survey for a sum not to exceed $1,000?
I have none, Dennis, you know, it needs to be done.
So are you
And I
making,
did Mr. Harshman survey that property before the quote unquote improvements done
We
with
pay
her?
another engineer to survey? We probably looked at that, we could look for that.
How about I talk to my field services
There's no
head
sense
and
there.
throw a number
No, I'm
together?
seeing in their bill.
about what the cost would be?
Just to draw up all the easement paperwork, do the survey and draw up the paperwork.
All right, why don't you do this? Why don't you,
I'm trying to hear Mr. Maples' response.
why don't you put together a proposal?
Yeah,
What it would take to do this, because I think $1,000 is kind of.
yeah, I
kinda low.
don't schedule field services, so I'm
Because
not,
I just
that's
had
not
to turn it
my,
down for myself, and
I just show up at the meetings, that's all.
all right, so what I suggest you do is put together a proposal, what it would do to do that, to do the survey and whatever.
Do the survey and develop easement
And
paperwork.
get that to the township within a week of the next meeting.
Sure,
Can you do that?
certainly do that.
Mr. Sparta, is that okay with you?
That's fine. We've run into hell long past bills owed to Jamie Harshman up in the thousands of dollars. And some of those billings occurred because of errors on his part.
Okay? All right.
No problem. All right, we'll move on to item number 2 on the list, which is the MS4 stormwater update. As you know, last meeting we were authorized to start working on the MS4 permit requirements. So this is a quick update. It's the second item in your packet there. I have 9 items on this list. We're working on updating components of the stormwater management plan for the township. The target audience list with the schools, the businesses, churches, residents, special interest groups, etc. There's a preliminary draft of the target audience list in the packet tonight. This is your first homework assignment. I'd like if you take a look at the target audience list just to verify some of the items on there before the end of June. Essentially what the target audience list is, it's a compilation of businesses and residents and special interest groups in Union Township that when the township distributes educational materials for stormwater as part of the MS4 permit, these are the folks that are going to receive the mailings, receive the information directly. So your MS4 permit requires that you develop a target audience list and update it every year. It hasn't been updated in a little while, so we did the update, and that's what's in front of you there for you to take a look at. We'll include this with our annual report in September. So that's the target audience list. We're going to get in the habit of doing some brief MS4 updates at each meeting. Your permit requires that you talk about your MS4 program at least once during a public meeting annually. So we're going to hopefully get it as an agenda item once a month just to talk about where we stand with the permit, what activities are ongoing, things like that. Then we'll have all that to document and include every year when we have to submit information to DEP. So, third item, we're working on updating the mapping, the township's MS4 mapping that shows all the outfalls, all the storm sewers, all the catch basins. These are supposed to be updated every year. And the ones that we received in the MS4 binder were dated 2019. So it's been a little while. We needed to make some updates. We're working on.
Sorry, excuse me, back
all
there, we're
those.
having trouble hearing.
Go ahead.
Huh?
All right, go ahead, TJ.
All right. Fourth item is the ordinance updates. So your MS4 permit's pretty clear. You have to have some specific language in your stormwater ordinance which prohibits certain things. We are reviewing your current ordinance just to make sure that language is in there. Dennis, I want to coordinate a phone call with you probably next week to talk about any updates that we need to make to the ordinance to
Sure.
satisfy that requirement. Next up is the field work. We have to inspect each of the stormwater outfalls every year. We did 54 of them so far, which is about 65% of the township. We'll have the rest of them completed probably this week or next week. And we also have to inspect each of the stormwater BMPs, all the stormwater ponds and infrastructure which is installed, to manage flow from development. So we've done 5 of those so far, which is 35% of them. We've 9 to go. So we're working on the field work, and let's see, the last couple items on here. We have also put together the stormwater BMP inventory, which is the other attachment that you have in that packet. Your permit requires that you update and maintain a list of your stormwater ponds in your township, basically. So that was something that had been done previously but not updated in a few years. So I added the 2 ponds up at Scarmazy's development and the pond over at Tractor Supply. But that's the second piece of homework. If you could take a look at the BMP list and just let me know if there's any that we're not aware of, any other, gas activities or any other development that would have had associated stormwater management. We should be tracking that on that inventory. So take a look at that list and let me know if I missed anything. And then the last couple items are for the public involvement and participation. We're going to make ongoing requests to the public to participate with us in this MS4 program. So a couple key components of our MS4 permit are involving the public, requesting comments, requesting questions, requesting participation, essentially. We'll be distributing educational materials to the target audience list. We'll be asking that you help work with us to implement this DEP permit. So if you have questions regarding stormwater concerns in the township, please direct them to the supervisor's board or myself. Comments and concerns as well. And then the last item is a request for help with identifying potential illicit discharges. So the stormwater permit defines illicit discharges as basically anything reaching a storm sewer that is not stormwater. So Joe's example earlier from the water tank situation up at Hobbit Lane, that's a case of a potential illicit discharge. So there is a illicit discharge complaint form already on the township's website. Basically what we're asking is if you see something that looks weird, let us know, and we're gonna follow up and do inspections for potential illicit discharge as part of the permit. So that's my MS4 update at this point. I'll pause again for questions from the board or comments regarding MS4.
The only thing I saw was, there is a Peebles Creek watershed alliance. There's, they come at least